Welcome to One on One with Mitch Lafon. And joining me on this episode, it is Enuff Z'Nuff's Chips Enough, and we talk about the new album Clown's Lounge. We also talk about Ace Frehley, Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses, the upcoming Rock Never Stops tour, and a lot more. To check me out, please head over to Twitter at Mitch Lafon. Also, TalkingMetal.com is where you can find all of my interviews. And with that, here is the one, the only, a good friend of mine, Chips Enough. We are speaking with Chips Enough of Enuff Z'Nuff. The new album is A Clown's Lounge. Good day, Chip. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, happy holidays to you and your family.
Yes.
Beautiful here in Chicago, nice and cold.
Well, you know what? It's not so bad in Montreal. It is the holiday time, and it's been raining, actually. Raining on top of snow, so it's interesting.
Oh, that's how ironic. It's been raining here as well, and then it snows, and then
Rains.
it dries up, and we actually got pretty good weather right now. We're in the 40s, so I'm very lucky for this winter time to have weather that's this mild.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The Farmer's Almanac is predicting that January and February are going to be brutally cold across the Northeast and Midwest and Canada. So let's see. They're 80% right. So fingers crossed. Clown's Lounge, my friend. Let's talk about this. It is the latest album for the band. It came out earlier in December. It is a collection of songs that you've had lying around. Talk to me about sort of compiling this, and what was the idea in these songs? Were they totally unvarnished and untouched as is, or are these reworked versions?
In Sesame Street terms, it's an archival record.
Okay.
Showcasing the band as it was and as it is today. The record company, Frontiers, approached us, a guy named Derek Shulman. Derek used to be our old president at Atco Atlantic Records back in the late 80s, responsible for signing some of the biggest bands in the world, Bon Jovi, Cinderella, Pantera, Mr. Big, who else did he have? He actually had Bad Company, and he also signed AC/DC. Powerful guy. Got a great set of years. Used to be in a band called Gentle Giant.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. It's the same guy from Gentle Giant, right?
Absolutely. He's the guy who came to us and said, Chip, I'd like to get another Enuff Z'Nuff album. Can you send me a few songs that you have? And I said, I certainly can. And what better than have the original band? And I pulled out 3 tracks, sent it to them, and next day they called and said, we love it, let's do a record. And I immediately went into recording mode. I had all the material. I've been saving everything from day one. Probably have 5 or 6 albums worth of material. But I wanted to do something that was sonically was strong. And I looked at all the stuff we did on 2-inch, all the analog recordings at the greater studios we recorded at. And I started finding all kinds of material. And they were all songs that had a great energy to them. And it just felt real good. And I listened to the recordings, and I didn't want to do too much to it because I didn't want to play with the authenticity of the original recordings. I thought there was a beauty to it and a great electricity. So I went in the studio, and I did very minimal overdubs. Not a lot of stuff, but it took me a couple of weeks. I really fine-tuned it all. And then we went into the studio and mastered the record, and that took probably the longest amount of time because it was a very tedious process. You could only add, you couldn't subtract on the recording parts of it. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess up the original recordings that we started with. And the songs it's a great collection of tunes, all recorded live in the studio with minimal overdubs. And it's not that they're old songs. Listen, Pink Floyd, Queen, Cheap Trick, Aerosmith, Foo Fighters, all these bands that put records out, some of the songs they have are 10, 20 years old too. They don't say it.
Well, the last Van Halen was like that, right? The last Van Halen album.
Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely, all the bands do it. Even the hip hop guys. You find material. Who cares where the songs come from? You just want to put out the best material you have. And these songs is no exception. They're strong tunes. They sat for a while. And then I found them again and realized, this is a great archival record. I want people to hear it, diehard Enuff Z'Nuff fans and people that don't know who Enuff Z'Nuff is. I want them to hear these songs. It's authentic power pop at its best, I feel.
Yeah.
And maybe we could have went to the studio and recorded brand new, fresh, new songs that were written in the last week or two. that would have cost $100,000. You can't make records for the budgets that are out there right now. And quite frankly, it's tough for any band out there to get a record deal. So I've tried to find the best material I could that was sonically strong and that would fit it within the budget of what we were offered.
Yeah, and it does sound strong. Just a quick side note for Derek Shulman fans from Gentle Giant. He also oversaw the signings of Slipknot and everybody's favorite Canadian band, Nickelback. There you go. I figured I'd throw that in there. Now, back to this. Now that you've had all these songs and all these demos, does it inspire you to write a new album that sounds like this stuff and get you those juices flowing? Or since you mentioned you have like 5 or 6 albums that are ready to go in a sense, is there going to be sort of a Clown's Lounge 2 and a Clown's Lounge 3? Because this album sounds great, by the way, right? You know that, of course. Is there a part 2 and a part 3?
I couldn't say. It's too hard to tell. I just know there's a plethora of material, and it's fresh and new, and that trips my trigger. It's a great record. We're going to go out and tour around the country and perform, play these songs live every single night. And then we'll take it from there with what the next game plan is going to be, because there really is no plan except that go out and support this album right now and not try to think too far ahead. However, I'm always thinking of new songs and great ideas that I feel that people, I'd like them to get a chance to hear them. It's too hard to tell and answer that question right now. But there is material, there's extra material, and there's some great archival stuff that I have. But it's not easy to find these songs. This recording would be $100,000 if I was recording in the studio right now. It would cost that much. It's very difficult to go in the studio and record on tour. First of all, a 2-inch tape, a big 2-inch tape, because it's going to cost you $375, $400. And that's 3 songs on the tape. That's all you can get on there, 15 minutes. And you're going to go through plenty of tapes when you're recording a record. Nobody just goes, okay, here's the 10 songs. You always record 15, 20 songs, and then you pick the 10, 12 favorite ones, the strongest ones, and put them on a record. So, and that's a fun, tedious process that takes a long time. And I have my own recording studio here. However, I got to go to other places and work there as well because it makes it a little easier. And they have great engineers and producers at those studios. And I like to work with great guys. And this record was no exception. Chris Shepard putting together stuff for me over at Chicago Recording Company. He's responsible for Elvis Costello and KMFDM. And I went over to Chris Steinman's over at Stone Cutter Studio in Chicago as well. And he's done Alice Cooper and Ozzy Osbourne and Styx. I went to the best guys, I thought, here in the Midwest that know how to make great records and know exactly what to do and know all the shortcuts. And the only exception on this record is the band was playing together in the studio live at the same time, and that's how you make a great record, not spinning and passing tapes through the mail. And you send it in Dropbox. I think you're in the same room together and you're creating. That's what makes the magic.
Yeah, and also not pro tooling it to death. Now, you've got Jani and Donnie on singing on these tracks, on a couple of these tracks. Did you have to go back to them and get special permission, or was there any sort of awkwardness in doing that, or was it like, hey, go for it? These are great songs. Put them out there.
Of course, I go to the guys and ask them, and they were into it, and that was it. I said, "Hey guys, we have a deal here for the first time in 20 years on a major label, and these are the songs I'm going to submit. What do you think?" And everybody goes. Donnie said, "There's a great energy in this. I understand why you're doing it, and I'm sure there's a few things in there that he wasn't happy about. Maybe the first track, Dog on a Bone, because he's not on it, but he didn't put up any resistance. As long as he was getting paid, he was happy." Monaco, on the other hand, I told him about the track. He remembers when we did it with Jani Lane. He's got respect for those bands. So I think he was happy to be included as well. Look, it's a strong record, and we're all playing together on it. And if there's a little resistance at the end of the day, when people look back at it, especially the band, they're going to say, man, we're lucky to have this record out here and get a chance to go out there and perform and get these songs maybe in a movie or a soundtrack or a TV show or a commercial, some way branded. Another record is another opportunity.
You're absolutely right on that, and it does sound great. Now, you do mention Jani. You've got Jani Lane of Warrant, who's singing on, what's it called, The Devil of Shakespeare, and also James Young of Styx. Talk to me about how you got those guys in the studio originally. In fact, when was that song recorded? 89, I guess, somewhere around there?
The Devil of Shakespeare recorded in 2004 here in Chicago at a studio that's no longer in business called Starfax. And we called Jani and asked our first inclination was, who can we get to sing on this track? After I rewrote the song with a guy named Billy Dior, who's also known as Billy McCarthy. He writes novels, and he was putting together a book. And he says, "I want to put a song in the book. Would you write a tune for me?" You have a title? He says, "Yeah, Devil of Shakespeare." I said, "Yeah." And I put together a tune. I wrote it in 10 minutes. Quick little ditty, and what I felt would be appropriate and something that he could sink his teeth into as a lyricist. And after recording the track, it took us a couple hours to actually get the whole song into fruition, where you do something you can start building on it like a puzzle. Our first thoughts were, let's get Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, and we went and approached Robin, and we handed him some money, and thousands of dollars, by the way. And his manager on the corner of his eye seen us talking to Robin and handing him dough, and came over to us and said, "What are you guys doing?" So we're cutting a deal with Robin. We're going to have him sing on the track. Wanted to sing on the chorus on a song we wrote. And he grabbed the money from Robin, honestly, like a little kid, and took it and handed it over back to us and said, "We got to listen to this song first before Robin does anything." I thought that was interesting. Use the musicians, you want to play with each other. You just plug in and play, and really there shouldn't be any extracurricular activities through management. It should be just between musicians and band. That's what binds everybody together. And then after a week or two of waiting, he finally got back to us and says, "Robin's too busy. He can't do the track." To our dismay, we thought, well, okay, what's going to be? We had no plan B. And then we talked about it and said, what about Jani Lane? Great singer. He's got tons of songs he's written himself. He's got beautiful pipes. Let's ask if Jani would do it. He's a friend of ours. We go back a long way. And we asked Jani. He said, "I'm into it." He took a red eye from Los Angeles to Chicago, got there about 1 o'clock in the morning, walked in the studio. After pleasantries, he says, "I want to go in and sing the song, but I don't want to be Jani Lane here. I want to take a Bowie approach to it." And as the producer, I said, I think that's great. You do whatever you'd like, because the producer's job really is to bring out the best performance in an individual. It has nothing to do with anything else but that. You want to get a good vocal take or a good musical take on a song, and you don't want to put handcuffs on the musician. And he went in there and sang it a couple times and nailed it. And we loved his approach, and we took the song, and then I started building from there. I called JY from Styx, and JY, not only a great musician, but just a classy cat, and says, "I'd be glad to come down and play guitar on it." And before you know it, voila, got a strong song for the record. And a lot of people have spoken about it because Jay's family and friends and all his fans, they're happy to hear his pipes again. And it helped elevate Enuff Z'Nuff's perception as well. And between Styx and Warrant, those two bands alone sold over 50, 60 million records. It's a win-win situation for all of us, I think. And it's a blessing to be able to have these guys playing on a record together. How many cats can say that they have a record out and they got musicians from all those different bands playing on the song and the record? I think it's really nice. The hip-hop guys do it. They mix it up, bunch of guys together playing in the studio. There's no reason why us rockers can't do the same thing.
Yeah, I fully agree. And, of course, James is a Chicago boy as well, right? Right? So growing up in Chicago, were you a huge fan of Styx and of James?
Absolutely. I've been following him for years, since I've been a little kid. And I remember when they were going through a transitional period and they were looking for a bass player, I thought, I'm going to get a call for this, because JY recorded a couple of Enuff Z'Nuff songs for his solo records. I used to go see his band all the time. They were terrific. But that didn't pan out. Maybe it's better that it didn't. They got a great bass player right now, Ricky Phillips, who I go back with a long way as well, when he was in the Babies. And everything worked out well. And JY and I just stayed friends for the longest time. And whenever they come through Chicago, I go see him. He's the balls of Styx. He always has been. Listen to his songs. from Snowblind to Miss America. He's got a lot of energy, and he's a very aggressive guitar player. And he got a certain style. As soon as he plugs in, he's got his own timbre. You know right away that's JY. So it's an honor to play with him, and I consider him a great friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Now, another guy you're playing with these days is Tony Fennell, who was, of course, in Ultravox at the beginning of the band's career, or no, sorry, in the 90s, actually. Talk to me about working with Tony and how you got Tony to go out on your touring band.
Well, we did a lot of work together. He'd hire me all the time to play bass on certain sessions for him out in New York. I'd fly out there, play bass. It'd be a week of work out there, and I'd knock it out in a day and a half. And I evidently left an impression with him because he's always loved Enuff Z'Nuff, and he seemed to be happy with working with me. So when the time came where I needed a guitar player and a singer, he's one of the first guys I reached out to. And since he joined the band, the band has changed exponentially. He joined the band. Our first couple of shows were at the M3 Festival in Baltimore. And little did I know the band would take off after that. We'd get all this work and get a record deal. I had no idea. Tony Fennell was definitely responsible for changing the direction of Enuff Z'Nuff and helping us out beyond belief. He's got a great mug, wonderful disposition, and a great sense of balance as a musician. He can play every instrument. He sings his ass off. He could be the lead singer in the band, but he doesn't sound like Donnie. And I guilt by default with me because I help produce and co-write all these songs and sing on them on the records. So it's only fitting that here I am in the front right now singing these songs. It's not an easy gig. I'm taking the place of my brother, who I consider one of the greatest singers of my generation. So it's definitely a challenging gig. But hey, people come out to the shows. It brings back memories. They want to hear the hits. They want to hear, New Thing Fly, Michelle Baby Loves You. And we provide that every single night. And I think the band right now is on an uphill roll right now. It seems to be doing very well. And with these tours that are coming up this year, we plan on 2017 being one of the biggest years for us as far as touring goes in the last 20 years.
Do you have a plan for a tour in 2017 at this point? Do you know who you're going out with?
Yeah, absolutely. We start on 18th with Ace Frehley from Kiss.
There you go.
And we'll be out with him until the middle of February, and then I'm doing Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp with who was it? Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Candlebox, Buck Cherry. There's a ton of bands on there, and they're all great. And I'll do that until the end of February, and then from there we go to Europe. And we'll be in Europe. It'll be the longest tour for Enuff Z'Nuff in Europe since we started this band.
That's just amazing.
It's almost a month over in Europe. We've never heard that. Every time we went to Europe, most American bands go to Europe, to play for a week or two at the most. So it's going to be a long tour for us. And then right after that, we plan on being on the Rock Never Stops tour for the summertime. So right now we've got work cut out for us all the way up until August or September of 2017.
Ah, that's fantastic. Now, you mentioned the Rock Never Stops tour. Who's on that, if I may ask, or is that still sort of a secret?
They're not really telling me, but I know it's a couple of huge bands.
Oh, that's going to be great.
We'll be lumped in there somewhere, and I'm sure it'll be full of a lot of different surprises on there because the bands that they're getting for that are big, multi-million selling bands. So it's going to be a great challenge for Enuff Z'Nuff going out there and playing to fans that maybe haven't followed us before, but we're going to win them over. We got a strong live show, and we come out every single night, no tapes and sequencers and guys hiding backstage. It's 4 guys singing and playing, and I think that people will be pleasantly surprised. The old days of coming out with going on tour and getting in the Oscar Mayer wiener wagon and bringing an ounce of cocaine with you, and tons of bottles of Jack Daniels and more pills than a pharmacy. Those days are over with. You want to go out and play great shows, you got to be focused, and it takes a lot of discipline. And be a rock and roll party, but without the substance abuse.
Yeah, and it's such an original concept to hear a band say they actually play on stage these days. I know a lot of the bands out there are 95% tape and 5% live, so kudos to you and Enuff Z'Nuff. Let me just quickly talk about the vocalist situation. You mentioned now that you're singing. You're sort of the front man. Was that an easy decision to make, a hard decision to make? Because, you had Donnie. He's got that voice. At any point did you sit back and say, we need to find a new lead singer for this band? Or did you just say, okay, you know what? It's about time that I do this?
Yeah, I was sitting with Donnie one day, and he says, he left the band a few times. He left in the early 2000s after Poison. After we came through Canada, we did a Poison tour.
Yep, I remember that.
We played the Bolson Theater. It was very successful.
I was there.
And 3/4 way in the tour, it fell apart. Bobby Dahl hurt his back, and he said, learn all the songs and learn all the Poison tunes because we wanted to keep the tour still going. And then he ended up just scrapping the whole thing, and that was it. After that tour, Donnie split the band. Then he came back again, 2004 or 5, and we did another tour. And it didn't work out well for him. He wasn't happy with the results. He disillusioned by the business, split again. And then the last tour with him was in 2013 over in England, 14 shows in 15 days. It was a grueling tour in a van, no bus, a small crew. And that tour basically took the wind out of his sails. He said, I'm out. And we continued to move on with Monaco singing, our guitar player. And early 2016, after not being able to get a hold of him for months, I knew something was not right because you can't be in a national act and not talk to your comrades. I finally got a text from him saying he had trigger finger and he had to go get an operation. He had to leave the band for at least 6 months. And that's when I snapped and just thought back to one guy. He said, why don't you sing the songs? These people are going to know it's Enuff Z'Nuff seeing you in the middle. You wrote the songs with me. You produced the records. You're singing on all the albums with me. You should do it. And that's when I decided I'll start making some phone calls. My first phone call was to Tony Fennell from Ultravox. He said, yeah, man. And I called my old guitar player, Tori Stofrig, and who plays in a band called New Black 7 as well. He's got a bunch of records out. Terrific singer guitar player. He said, "You kidding me? I'd love to do this." And that was it. And I realized how difficult it is to take the place of my brother. You never really can. He's so terrific. But he's not in a place where he can do this right now. And I am. And I'm not willing to step aside and stop it. And I could have went out and took the approach of bands like Styx and Stone Temple Pilots or Foreigner or Journey and went out and get a guy from somewhere else that sounds like him, because first of all, it's hard to find guys that sound like him, and second of all, how many bands do you know that have done this, where one of the musicians have taken over lead vocal duties that's been in the band from the beginning? I can think of one, that's it, and that's Genesis, when Peter Gabriel left, Phil Collins took over, and that's pretty much the template I've taken with Enuff Z'Nuff.
And I like to see you up there. I think it's a great. In fact, I think it's long overdue. I think you should have done this years and years ago. Can we quickly talk about Steven Adler and playing with Adler's Appetite or Steven for 6 or 7 years? How was that? And what are you in contact with Steven at all these days?
It was great working with him, and I do talk to him periodically. I did this Rocco Fantasy Camp in July or August of this year. And I knew the class would love to see him. He's such an iconic drummer, and his band is just, one of the biggest bands in the world, obviously. And Steven, I called him and said, I'd love you to come out and see my class. These guys hail you out here, and all the musicians do as well. And Steven goes, I'm not feeling good. I'm not going to come out, Chippy. I'm sorry. And I said, please reconsider. I'm only here for 4 or 5 days. We're playing the Whiskey. If you just come on out and say hi to Paul Stanley and to the guys in the Eagles and Vinny from Black Sabbath, they'd be tickled pink, and the class would really love it forever. And lo and behold, he shows up in the afternoon. He looked great. He sounded killer. You could tell he's clean. And I gave him a lot of advice. In the old days, we'd sit in the house, Steve and I. We'd watch cartoons all day, by the way, if we weren't rehearsing. And Family Guy and American Dad. He just loved that stuff. And we'd sit and we'd pray about and talk about Guns N' Roses getting back together. That's all he wanted, was to get back on the throne one more time with that band. So when they played Chicago here, and I thought he'd maybe be a part of it, but he wasn't. But the following day he called me from Cincinnati, and they just played the show in Cincinnati, his first show at Guns N' Roses in 20-something years. and he was on Slash's bus, and he was really excited about it. And so, obviously, Slash, the classy guy, telling Steven, "Come on, travel with me." I thought that showed a lot. And he's done a bunch of shows since then as well. And 2017 turns out that it's going to be, there's already 35 or 40 dates in the book right now for Guns N' Roses. So I think Steve will be a part of it. He comes out, does 2 or 3 songs a night. The fans hail it. And it's a healing process for him. It's like serendipity, a moment of clarity. He gets up to get up on stage with his guys who he created with when he was 16, 17 years old. And they're playing packed places, huge stadiums. It's only fitting for a guy who suffered all them years and took such a beating. Remember, he got kicked out for doing drugs when everybody else was doing drugs in the band too, excluding Axl. Axl always had it pretty much together. But the other guys were out of control. It was the inmates running the asylum back then, and they just happened to find a little niche in the music business that helped take them over to the next level. When they came out, it was just like Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses was just like Poison and Motley Crue and Enuff Z'Nuff. All the bands had glam overtones, wore makeup and lipstick, were colorful and flamboyant. MTV loved it. They pushed it. For some reason, they were able to slip that glam tag and they got turned into the next Aerosmith meets the Rolling Stones. And I can't explain the music business. It's very finicky. But those are great iconic songs. Radio plays them all the time. And you want to hit? Well, repetition is what makes hits. And radio has always been good to them. And David Geffen's a genius, and he broke that band, and they did very well. And here we are now, 30 years later, and they're out playing stadiums and sheds, and other bands like us have to go out and slug it out in the van and in clubs. And that's just the way the business is. And the average life expectancy for any band is a few years. So for all of us to still be going, it's a blessing. And it goes to show the tenacity and the framework that we've provided for our bands and our fans. That all we care about is to make great records and go out there and tour and play these songs. And we're not all built to do this, but the ones that are, well, they'll do it.
Yeah, it is amazing that you think of all the bands that we see in local bars, and everybody has these dreams, and really not that many make it. And here you are, you're still going after 20, 30 years. Is there sort of a retirement plan in place where you say, okay, I'll give it another 10, and then I got to just sort of sit back here in Chicago and watch the daisies grow, or do you go on as long as you possibly can and just keep slugging it out, as you say?
Yeah, that's it. There's no retirement plan. You play, and that's what we do. We make records, and we have 20 of them out right now, counting all of our releases. That's not counting all the other records I've done for everybody else. I'm probably on 60 or 70 albums. That's my legacy right there, playing music and touring around the country and putting records out. That's it. And there's no anybody who puts plans together like that. Maybe the Stones have done that because those guys made a Brinks truck full of money. The ones that have done very well have sold millions and millions of records and put together, and they have an accountant and put together a contingency plan for when it's all going to end. Well, God bless them. But for bands like us, it's about getting up every single day and working. We're all one paycheck away from being out in the street.
That's that Midwestern work ethic, and I love hearing that, and I'd love to hear more bands that have that. You got to get up and you got to just do it. Nothing comes to you. Chip, always a pleasure. There's so much more we could cover, but I guess we'll keep it for the next one. It's great, and hopefully we'll get to see an Ace Frehley Enuff Z'Nuff tour or show in Canada at some point.
Well, it's nice that Ace has been we did a couple shows this year, or in the middle of the year with Ace. All of them completely sold out, jam-packed. He sells out everywhere he goes. And he's straight and focused right now. He looks terrific. And there's rumors out there that he might one day be back with Kiss again. Who knows what the music business has to offer, because there's so much dough out there that you can buy your way in. You put together Kiss and it's the original guys again. Look what's going to happen. There'll be stadiums and sheds for them as well. I don't know what the future holds. I just know that right now Ace is in a good place. He's got a brand new record out. He's got a killer band with him, and I think we're a good support group for them to take out. He's got nothing to worry about, and I think it's going to be It'll be like a little, what do I always say? It'll be like a indoor mini Woodstock without the mud. Bring your peace signs and peace.
That's funny.
Great show.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great show. It's gonna be great, and who knows about Ace going back to Kiss? But you're right, though. There's a lot of money in them hills if they decide to mine them, right? So let's see. I'd love to see it.
Well, remember they got Doc McGee managing them, and he could tuck a dog off a meat truck. He's one of the greatest rock managers of all time. So if anybody can put it together, it's Doc. But I think Ace is in a good place right now. He's focused on his solo career. He's got some great songs. He's got a wonderful label that's behind him right now. And, that's the great thing about the music business. There's always surprises and wonderful things that come up, and people get excited about that. So let the internet go crazy and worry about that. I'm going to worry about showing up at the shows focused and ready to go and kick some ass every single night. And I hope to see all my friends and fans out there who have supported us for years attending as well.
Yeah, they will. And let's just say that if they do a reunion, Enuff Z'Nuff has to be the opening band. Chip, always a pleasure, and we'll see you on the road in 2017.
Mitch, I wish you and your family nothing but the best. Looking forward to seeing you in 2017, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Beautiful, bro.
And there you have it, folks. My interview with Chip Z'Nuff of the band Enuff Z'Nuff. The new album is Clown's Lounge. Please make sure to check out the band on the road all of 2017 and beyond. While you're checking stuff out, head over to Twitter at Mitch Lafon and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon should you care to support the podcast. And also head over to talkingmetal.com. You will find all of my interviews and a lot more. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. Thank you to Chip. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir. Bye for now. Oh my.